Welcome back to part 3 of Elevating E-commerce. Today, we're going to be going hands-on. We're going to be dissecting 2 major players in the e-commerce space that I picked out specifically for the reasons that they're such polar opposites of each other. And I think this is going to really start tying things in for you, because in the past, we've pretty much just talked theory. We've talked about how things should be laid out. But today, we're actually going to be looking at how some of these things are laid out and what you should and what you should not be doing, and the things that you should be conscious of and watching out for. Because when I talk to a lot of e-commerce owners, what I see is, they only hear what their web developer or what somebody else has been able to tell them, but it's very rare that they actually have gone through some of these types of examples to understand how these things work when it comes to e-commerce. And so I hope to shed some light on this today, so that next time you're looking at your site, you're going to be like, oh, I know what this is. I know how this works. Let me see if this works properly. Let me see if I can adjust this better. And you're going to have those reference points. You're going to have those examples to actually go through and see how you can amplify your own e-commerce website. So let's get started right away. It's going to be a pretty long hands-on experience. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks for joining me at my laptop. In this little part of the series, I'm going to be showing you 2 different examples, and they're 2 polar opposites of each other, which I think is going to be a really good model for you to contrast from. And once again, I'm not picking on Home Depot here by any stretch of the imagination. I think that when you're a company that's this big and you have this much different inventory going on, you have so many different pieces that kind of fit together. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of unhappy board members. There's a lot of people within the hierarchical structure of the company that, all want to make something happen. And so it's understandable that like large companies like this end up just becoming a little bit more complicated than necessary. But once again, I think this is actually a pretty great example for you to look at, because it's going to show you what you as a much smaller company does not need to do or can avoid. And I'm going to be contrasting this with Apple's company, with their website, and how they're almost complete polar opposites in the way they present information and the way they structure things. So once again, I'm not picking on Home Depot. I'm sure this is the best that they've done for reasons, and I'm sure that the people who actually run and manage the site are extremely knowledgeable and they do know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, when you have tons and tons of people and moving parts at play, it makes it a little hard to be, slimmed down, to be a lot more clean and minimal with design. But that also comes with ramifications, that comes with problems, that comes with confusion for the average consumer. And so, I'm sure most people who come onto this website, they're going to be using this bar right here. But realistically, if you're just coming on here to browse, it makes it very hard to kind of understand what's going on. And I guarantee you that with all this different stuff here, you have thousands and thousands of different items that are being sold, but there's a bunch of stuff like even on this main homepage that are completely unnecessary. And we can start with this little banner right here: training, connecting, growing, path to pro trades program. To 99% of the people who are probably browsing this website because they want to do some home renovation things around their house, this means absolutely nothing to them. This carousel that's running at 3 seconds to 5 seconds, just on this constant loop, is also like a very hard way for people to actually dissect data. The amount of people who probably spend the time to actually look through all 4 of these little icons here, once again, very, very slim, very little. This means nothing. Get ready for outdoor living. This could get some clicks. I think this is a little bit better. Up to $150 off, select tools and free delivery. It's extremely broad. So once again, I don't think someone who's actually looking for a drill is going to end up clicking on this unless it just happened to get caught up in their glance. You have to understand one thing that's really important is that when a user enters a website for the first time, their first instinct is not to just read everything or to intake everything that they see all at once. That's not how things work. People aren't going to look through all 4 of these screens before they actually end up making their search. They're not going to look through all 4 of these little screens until they go here and actually look at what they're looking for. And so, things might be sorted well in these little menus, but when you have this above the fold thing here kind of just going off on a rampage, and then you have this large white space, and then you have this right here, up to $200 off select faucets, bidets, and shower doors. These two faucets right here at the end, they look the same to me. So there's no discernible difference between anything. Now, what's funny is this is actually all just one single image, or this is all like a series of images that all just link to the same page. But once again, is this the best way they could have presented this information? I don't think so, because it really does not give people a lot of details, right? Like they say select faucets, bidets, and shower doors, but I only see faucets. So, once again, this wording is going to get drowned out because people aren't going through this page and dissecting things the way we're dissecting it right now, piece by piece. So let's go back to the home page. Scroll down a little further. You have 4 different types of deals going on here. It's okay. It's not ideal. It's better to kind of showcase one deal at a time and give it a reason for it to take up real estate. The problem with a lot of e-commerce stores is they're too ambitious. They want to put in too much information and cramp it in all at once. And so what you end up having is this like disconnected feeling of when you're scrolling down this page. And you have random people working on some kind of $150 off deal here. Then you go down and you see these no-name faucets, and somehow this is a special, and somehow there's supposed to be shower doors here, but you don't see them. And then you scroll down, you see all these different deals going on right here, but none of them actually make you your attention kind of direct to them. Maybe this green thing right here is actually kind of a good attention getter because that's where my eyes naturally fell off to. And so the reason I'm explaining all this to you is not to dissect Home Depot per se, but it's really for you to get an idea of how is a user going to approach my website when they land on it for the first time, right? Like if you landed on Home Depot for the first time, your first instinct is not to be like, oh, I can't believe they have the Path to Pro Trades program. I can't wait to learn more. That's not, no normal human being is going to approach the e-commerce store that way, right? Like that's not why they're on this website. 99.9% chance. None of them are going to look at these faucets and be like, oh, this is the faucet I was looking for, and then click on it, because it doesn't give enough of a description. It just has a huge row and layout of faucets of 3 different types of colors and no names, and they all look really pretty much very similar in design, right? So it's like, what are they actually trying to do here? What is their goal? What is their intention as the store owners? What are they trying to get this customer to do? Now, obviously, we know they're trying to get the customer to buy, but then you have to kind of go a layer deeper and be like, is this the best way to make the customer purchase something? Is the best way to make a customer purchase something to throw 20 different faucets at them all at once and not create any discernible difference other than the angle of the photo and the color of the faucet, right? Like, and when you start thinking about things from this very pragmatic perspective, you almost kind of realize like, no, the answer is obviously not. Like if someone showed this to me, I wouldn't know what the difference between these faucets were. Like there's no reason for me to click on any one of these faucets unless this is specifically the kind of faucet that I've been searching for this whole time. And it certainly doesn't help to have a layout of all these different like same types of faucets that are obviously probably different companies and different styles, but within these photos have no actual discernible difference. Same thing here with this coupon thing. Select online bath up to 40% off. What does that mean, right? Like all I'm seeing right now is this kind of like bath. It's not a dresser, but it's like a, you know what it is. But it doesn't give me enough of a description. I can't even relate this information to you on this video because I'm like, yeah, I know what this is, but there's no reason that like there's no other information that's being pulled that's pulling me towards it for me to actually give it a reason to click, especially when there's all this other stuff going on around it. Same thing with this bed. Are you guys selling me the bed? Are you guys selling me the rug? Are you guys selling me the room? Are you guys selling me the design? I don't know what it is. And so I think this little green one right here is probably the best one out of all these four because it has a strong, clear contrast of what it is. You can tell right away that's either a snowblower or some kind of weird lawnmower thing, right? Like you without actually dissecting it further, like that's what your first instinct is most likely going to be. And so then we land down at the shop by category piece. And this is actually probably my favorite part of this homepage because if they made these little icons a little bit bigger and they made these tiles a little bit larger and a little bit more bold, then you would actually have a really good starting ground. Because if somebody lands on this website for the first time, chances are they don't actually know what all these different menu icons or menu drop downs are. But it's a lot easier for somebody to go and see this as their first thing and be like, oh, the bath and faucet, this is what I've been looking for. And so that makes it a lot easier because then it's like, okay, my gaze is already on all these little tiles. Now all I need to do is play mix and match and I use a kindergarten level of thinking in order to get to the next part of this conversation or to get to the next part of this conversion funnel. And so this is okay. It's not great. The hierarchy on this is nice. It's obviously bolded out a little bit and it's got a little bit more of a description below it. Whereas, you kind of go back to these faucet things and this is like the worst type of hierarchy that you can have because it says select up to $200 off these 3 things, but you only show one of these things and there's no other further description involving it. And so even though they have this shop today special thing, that's not where your attention actually goes in this case. Because as you're reading this, the next thing you're seeing is this huge row of a variety of items. And so the mystery becomes more these items and not the uniqueness of what this orange button is. Even though the orange button has a really strong contrast, it is not the star of the show in this little section. And so that's kind of important. If anything, you'd probably want to drop this button down below these faucets because that's going to be the natural secondary point. Once you read this thing and you go and see all these different faucets, because that was the next thing to engage your attention because you're like, what the hell are these little pointy things going, what's going on here? Your next instinct is not to go back up to this orange button when it comes to natural eye gaze. Your next instinct is to go down lower and try to get more information on what this is. So it actually makes a lot more sense to put this orange button below these faucets. That would make that hierarchy a little bit better, but it's still, a pretty solid D to F rating. I like these categories. They should be bigger. This is okay. Actually, it's not the worst. I don't know how effective this is, and if it's having such a short, small section on it, is actually that useful. Sponsored products, this is ads. Top categories for you, that's politics. This is all just kind of necessary stuff, and then they obviously have all their brands. And so, in this little homepage, we've kind of dissected how they built out all this different content, and it's not great. Like, do you see how fast this carousel is spinning right now? It doesn't actually provide you with a lot of information for you to actually want to go and click on it, unless like you're specifically looking for that exact thing. And so what most people end up doing is they're like, hey, if we throw and stuff more information onto our homepage, then people are more likely to click. And I don't believe that's true. I believe people just get confused. And if they found you through a search result or they found you through an ad, what's going to end up happening is they're going to get out of the ad. They're going to press the X, or they're going to click back and they're going to go to the next search result for the next e-commerce store. So those are important things to consider because it's not like they're walking into your store physically, right? They can go back in 0.5 seconds and never think about you again. And so now let's contrast this with the Apple Store. And this is their main homepage. And look how different this is, right? The first thing you see is either this right here, the iPhone 13 Pro, or you see this huge, perfectly laid out image of something we all know really well, right? And so once again, it's a little hard for me to contrast Home Depot to Apple because they're two extremely different businesses. One has thousands of things in inventory, and the other one has 10, 15, 20 different products that like are their main staples. And so, but it's still like the strategy is all the same. Like Home Depot can do this, right? They just choose not to for whatever reason. And so very different how we see things. You see this above the fold right here, and it's very clear as to what's going on. You have your little buttons and nothing else is cluttering it. So it's easy for them to just have a learn more and a buy and keep it that simple, right? And then the next thing you see right still above the fold is iPhone 13, your new superpower. That's pretty cool. That's not going to happen all the time. And so one thing I'm going to talk to you about in this video as well is screen sizes and how that affects what people are going to see and the proper way to do it and kind of the improper way to do it. But if you keep scrolling down, you see that each product gets its own specific highlight. Every single panel on this homepage has a reason for it to exist on this homepage. The homepage is your most expensive real estate, right? Don't try to stuff a strip mall into your expensive real estate. This is not helping anybody. This is just slop. This is just somebody put this together and because their shift was ending in 27 minutes, right? And it's a Friday at 6 p.m. This is like very well intentioned. This is very well laid out. You have strong contrast between different backgrounds. This is a light background. This is a dark background. Look at the contrast of this gold to this purple, and look at the contrast of this blue and this kind of almost black silver chrome rim to this white. Really easy to see. I even like how they had this little like section right here. This is kind of like a current trend that's going on a little bit. And then you get to the next thing. Once again, another huge big layout. You see Apple Watch Series 7. The hierarchy of this is really natural, right? Your eyes just flow down the screen and you understand exactly what's going on. So if you were looking for the watch, you can just be scrolling down this page, previewing things, and you're like, oh, this is the thing I was looking for. Now we get into a little bit more of the meat where it's like, okay, now we have like 4 different panels here, right? But still, look at how they did the contrast on this. It's white, white, color, color, right? And it's all very well laid out. You don't even have to look at the rest of this panel in the bottom right, and you already know exactly what it's all about. And so it's all very methodical. Everything on this homepage was done with reason, with intention of trying to achieve a certain objective. And that's exactly what I'm trying to have you do for your own e-commerce store. So after this video is done, make sure you go on your e-commerce page and ask yourself, what is the intention? What is the reason for the information that is being presented on my homepage? And how can I improve it? How can I make it better? How can I make the hierarchy pop, right? How can I make it so that the products that I'm selling are visible, are clear, are understandable to the user? When I see these 3 watches, I know this is an Apple Watch. I don't even have to go further than a quarter down the page. I already know that this is an Apple AirPod. Same thing here, the Apple Card, like very clear. And here they're doing a little bit less contrast, but it's still very effective because there is so much white space going on here that it's not overpopulating. And if you actually scroll out a little bit, I don't know if this will work right now. It doesn't really work too well, but like if you really zoomed out on this screen, you would see it's like clear or light panel, and then light panel, and then it's color, color, color. So it's like it's very, very well done. It makes it easy for the user's eyes to flow and for the gaze to continue. And all in all, I think it's a much better job, and it's something that the Home Depot could have done in certain aspects, at least with categorizing things, for example. So maybe on the Home Depot homepage, instead of having really random discounts on faucets that don't actually help the person understand anything, they would instead create highlights for their categories, because that they know that when the user is going to Home Depot, they're probably looking for a specific type of item or for a specific set of items. And so that could be something that they could work on, for example. Now, the next thing I really want to talk to you about is the ability to have what you would call responsive design within your homepage, or within your website in general. And I'm going to show you what Home Depot does and how they kind of, I don't think this is intentional, but it's certainly not a best practice of how they do it. If you ever want to see if your website or somebody else's website is mobile responsive, all you need to do is drag the side of your screen and keep making it smaller and smaller and smaller. And as you make it smaller and smaller and smaller, things are going to naturally flow and adapt. And so right now you're looking at this screen, you're kind of like, this looks a little messed up. And that's because it is messed up. And so like there should not be this horizontal scroll going on. So that tells me a few things. It tells me that either the Home Depot has a specific site that they use for mobile inventory, which is a little strange, I think, in today's day and age, because you just don't need to do that anymore with like proper web design. Proper web design should flow pretty seamlessly because they're not doing anything very complex on this homepage. So there's something that's going on. Like if you see these 4 little grids right here, these 4 grids they've obviously collapsed down into 2 different columns, right? Because they used to be 4, but it's not going down any further. So, but then these panels increased, right? And so could they have laid out these panels better for a mobile responsive site? Absolutely. Because now a person needs to scroll down through the whole page in order to like find their category that they need. So all in all, the homepage for Home Depot as a mobile website is not looking very great from a responsive perspective. And right now I'm going to contrast that to you with the Apple site and how they do it, which is the proper way to do it. So let's just refresh this page really quick. And let me start dragging things, and you're going to start seeing how things naturally start to resize on this page. So if you saw right there, they're using 2 different types. They're using 2 different images for the iPhone, and they're both loading at different resolutions. And that's why that thing blinked for a second, because it saw that you're at a different pixel width for the screen, and it needed to load in a new image. And so as you keep doing this, it's going to keep changing. So you see now we've increased the padding right here. We've increased the gap that exists on the screen. This is meant for an even smaller screen. And you keep going down, and you see that the hierarchy, everything that happens remains the same. Now this is really cool. Because this is a much smaller screen, and a much smaller screen is generally vertical instead of horizontal, look at what happens. This image completely changes. It changes from a horizontal layout like this that you would look at on your desktop. And if you're on your phone, it actually changes to up and down. It changes into a vertical layout. And so people, why are they doing this? They're doing this because they want you to increase the eye flow. Like they want your eyes to naturally flow down the page so that you can find what you're looking for. So they have this arrow pointing down right here, and then this arrow pointing up right here, right? Even though it's an iPhone. The same thing with the watch. The watch has perfect hierarchy. Then you have these watches. And so those 4 panels that we would see in a row are now perfectly stacked together in a grid-like fashion into one column. And so once again, you're going down this screen and you're still getting that same exact experience that you would on a desktop. That's really good design. That's what we focus on achieving. That's what we strive for. And so you can test this with literally, not pretty much, with literally any website on the internet. If you go down like this and it reformats properly, that site is actually properly mobily responsive in 2020, 2021, 2022, and beyond. Like that's how it should be. And it should have been like that for a very long time. You go on a website like this, like I'm going to give Home Depot the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that they hopefully are loading a different mobile browser or a mobile version of their website on mobile screens, but it's still not an excuse, because there should never be this kind of overflow for the scroll, for a horizontal scroll as they're going down. And so if a user just has like an awkward device or something, like look how bad this is. Like this should never be this small. Like this is a problem. And so your assignment today is to go on your website and try this at different points. A good rule of thumb is obviously full screen is a regular desktop. Kind of going halfway to about like 1/3 is going to be most of your tablets that you have, and then going as far as you can is going to be a mobile screen like an iPhone or a Samsung Android. So those are all pretty much like the 3 main points for you to worry about. But if you see something like this where this just becomes smaller and smaller to where it's illegible, it's unreadable, that's something that you're going to need to work on, whether you need to hire a web developer or you have a guy or you need some help, and you can let me know and I can check it out and we can see what we can do in order to fix that. So that's just something to look at. And once again, compare these 2 websites, go over this video again, look at how their hierarchy is structured, look at all the white space that exists on the Apple site, and look at the lack of spacing, proper spacing that exists on the Home Depot site. Like, why is this padding right here so much shorter than this padding at the bottom? That shouldn't be happening. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like that something's off with that. And so these are some of the things that you should be looking for as a business owner, because these are actually things that are going to affect your bottom line. They're going to affect your top line. They're going to affect your conversion numbers with either prospects or customers, because when they land on your site and there's just a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo going on, well then if you're actually running something, if you're trying to showcase or feature a new product and you don't have a proper hierarchy structured, then that's going to be a problem for you. And it's going to be a bigger problem for you down the line as you have more and more things, as you develop your website more and more. And so those are just some of the things to look out for.
All right, so I hope this helps you out. Obviously we can be doing this for hours and hours and hours, but even you can even see just from these 2 examples how deep we can really go into understanding how layouts work. And so when you start approaching your own website, don't think about this from like, oh, Rich said to do this, therefore I should do this. No, use your own logic, use your own intuition. The playing field is yours to conquer and take over. And so when you see things, get reference, get other feedback, see what other people are looking for on your website. Are there distractions that are unnecessary? How clean can you make your design? Is every single portion of your website relevant with its intent to actually get a customer to go and do something? People don't get that part, because to them, once again, a website and e-commerce store is just commoditized. They're like, well, Shopify already built this theme out for me. Why should I go do anything else? And if you want to be the best, if you want to stand out, if you want to completely blow away your competition, then that's not where the question ends. That's where it begins. And so you have that journey in front of you to actually keep moving forward, to keep progressing, because you can always make things better. You can always optimize. You can always take things to the next level. So this is a long video. I'm going to cut it now, but I want to say that next week we are going to have part 4, and it's the final part of the Elevating E-commerce series on YouTube. I'm actually going to be showing something very special. I don't think anybody really talks about this at all, but I'm going to be dissecting it with you on screen as well. And it's going to give you a completely different perspective of how some of the top dogs, some of the top players really move their e-commerce into the direction of where I'm starting to see it's heading. So if you like this video, please share, please subscribe. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve on. This is a new channel, so I'm obviously growing. And if this course helps you, please share it with a friend, especially someone who's in the e-commerce space and can benefit from this. Anyways, I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.